Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk. Sit back and relax. It's time to talk technology.
Welcome, heroes of the technological revolution. Welcome to your recharging station, your sanctuary, your weekly nourishment. Welcome to Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. And welcome to the microphone, the man who sees limits as just a mere challenge, who sees them as someone else's problem. Welcome to the microphone, Matthew Dickerson.
The person who the laws of physics were not designed to accommodate, or something like that.
I'll save that one for the next one. Thank you for the prompt.
Now, I do like your husky voice this week. This is just
I've got the sexy voice today.
To attract some more female listeners, Is that it? Good work.
'Tis the season for it.
Now, this week I want to talk about email and some of the processes we've now got in place to make our email system safer. Now, I've often talked about this when I have spoken about scams and all the rubbish email we get. I can send a letter to you, and on the back of that letter, I can say the Prime Minister or the President of the United States as the sender of the email, of the letter. And if you get that, and if I made it look fancy enough, you'd say, oh, look at this. The President just sent me a letter.
Yeah.
There's no way of checking to see whether or not that letter has come from that particular address or person. You might go return to sender, so we'll send it back there, and they go, oh, I didn't send that letter. But there's no real way when you receive that. Now, the reason you don't see a lot of scam, because that'd be a great way, wouldn't it, to send scam letters out there?
Oh, just give me a great idea.
Great, whoops. I've got this letter from the tax office. I've got to give them a detail, whatever it might be. All the stuff we get via email, that'd be much more effective with letters and where it comes from. Obviously, the tax office has obviously sent it to me because, look, it says on the back, came from the tax office. But, of course, it costs, if I'm a scammer, it costs me $1 or more than $1 per letter that I send. So I'm not getting a great return if I've got to send a bazillion out to get a few returns. Not great. Obviously, with email, it's cheaper. And in the past, it's been exactly the same thing. And I had an incident probably about a year or so ago where someone thought they'd been hacked and a few processes had occurred. And I said, let me just show you how easy it is. And I actually put up a command prompt, went through and typed a few commands and sent them an email that said it came from someone else. And they went, how'd you do that? I said, any scammer knows how to do this. You can spoof an email address very quickly or very easily. So there was a development by the Internet Engineering Task Force. So they got together with companies like Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, etc. And they said, we're going to put some processes in place to clean up the internet. Have some way of saying where that email comes from, some legitimacy about that email, which sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
And you are noticing it, and it's causing some issues, but it's getting better as well, because what you'll find now, when you used to get a letter from the bank or from the tax office or someone that you went is being spoofed, the email address it came from looked legitimate. It was very easy to replicate that. So you looked at the domain name. They didn't try and make it just look a little bit like the domain name. They used the domain name. They used the actual domain name because there was no way of checking that it came from that address. If you replied to it, the person would go, I don't know about this. I didn't send you that email. But the initial one that went through could come from anywhere. Now I'm starting to see more scam emails where it's coming from at a random domain name or at a domain name that's a bit closer to it, or just common ones like a Gmail address or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So that's a really easy way to spot a scam. Your bank's probably not going to send you an email from Gmail. So that's a good way to spot a scam. So what they put together, they put three things together. One called SPF, Sender Policy Framework, DKIM, Domain Keys Identified Mail. Now, what this does is basically SPF says, here are the servers that are allowed to send emails from this particular domain. So you put in your DNS entries, you say, this is my domain name, and here are the servers that it's okay to send an email from. Obviously, not the scam servers, just the server that I use for my domain. Right. So that narrows it down straight away that any email that comes with that domain name that's from any other server but my server, hold on, this isn't right. So SPF is an effective way to block it. You've also got DKIM, which adds a digital signature to each message. So basically, it hasn't been tampered with. Here's our signature to show that this is legitimate. But the most important part is DMARC, which basically domain-based message authentication reporting and conformance. Basically, that says, did this email pass SPF and did it pass DKIM? And if that's all okay, I'll accept it. Right. So that's all in place. Not all email providers are conforming to this at this stage. So I can have my email that's not set up correctly. I can send an email to someone else's domain and that's not set up correctly, and it gets that just like it used to do in the old days. But where I found a few issues just this week, a few people were sending out emails to people with Gmail, and Gmail started to get much stricter on conforming to these policies last year, but they seem to have gotten even stricter lately. So suddenly these people, I sent you that email, James. No, I didn't get it. No, I definitely sent it. Here's my sent items. I definitely didn't get it. It's not in spam. It's not anywhere. Essentially what's happening is Gmail's got it and said, no, it doesn't conform. I'm rejecting it. I don't get a message back as the sender of the email to say it was rejected. You don't get any notification. It's just, if you're not going to set your email up properly, I'm just assuming that you're a scammer and it's going nowhere.
And you have to make a verbal sort of contact with the person, like independently of the email. It all depends on how important the email is.
Correct, yeah. Most people that send an email to someone, they just assume.
Just assume they got it.
That's right, yeah.
And they ignored it. Oh, right. Oh, okay.
Why weren't you at my birthday party, James? Where were you? You know, I swear I sent you that email. So you're right. So essentially, there's a process there, I suppose, where hopefully in the near future, every email provider, every server out there will conform to SPF, DKIM and DMARC, which means that the internet will be safer and more protected from scams. Now, it won't mean you won't get a scam from an email address that's not a legitimate email address for that company, but it makes it more obvious, makes it much harder for that scammer to spoof, well, they can't spoof the email address, makes it harder for them to get past you with a bit of common sense, these emails. If you want to check, so I've got this is my little tech tip for the week here. I didn't just introduce that concept, but it's my tech tip for the week. From your email, just send an email to check-auth, so CHECK-AUTH at verifier.port25.com. So if you just send an email, it doesn't matter what you have in there, just blank email is what I'd recommend. Send an email to that and you'll get a response back within 30 seconds to say, did your email pass SPF, DKIM and DMARC?
Right.
So for you, and probably not so important if you're using one of the big providers, if you're using Yahoo or Gmail, then you're pretty confident that they're conforming, but check it anyway.
Yeah.
But it's more if you've got a business, if you've got your own domain name, then send it to that check-auth at verified.port25.com and you'll get that email back to say whether you're passing. If it's not, that might mean that you're sending emails out that aren't necessarily being delivered because other companies are.
It's going to cost you money.
Well,
potentially
frustration, money.
Customers that decide that that they've been ignored.
Yeah, all that sort of thing. So it's one there. And again, I say Gmail is very strict on it. Yahoo is as well. But you'll find other companies will start to be much stricter on this as well.
Right.
So that's a good little one just to keep in the back of your mind. The other quick one, just want a quick boast here. I've got 2 of my latest books that have just hit the top 10 in Amazon.
Hey.
One's hit number 1 in a category. So
okay.
number 1 is bestsellers in technological innovations on Amazon now. Tech Talk 2021, one of my books where I write columns each week and I compile them into a list. And the other one that's hit the top 10 is bestsellers in technology and society. So
there you go.
I'm not number 1 in overall books, so there's a few other ones that are slightly
but you're a
ahead.
best-selling author. Congratulations to you.
In a category. That's right. Just leave the last bit off. So anyway, go and search on Amazon, Tech Talk. If you just search for Tech Talk on Amazon, you'll find those books. Or search for my name on Amazon, you'll find those books. And good little 1.5 hour read. Similar lines to what we do here. We chat about, or I talk about in the future in those columns, and you can look back and see what I was thinking about a few years ago.
All right, now in today's episode, we better get started on these stories today. Today's episode, we're taking a seat ringside as the gentleman sport turns robotic, if you know what I mean by that. Well, just wait for that story. Stay tuned also for Baywatch in the drone zone, and I'll explain more of that later. We'll solve the world's freshwater crisis by soaking water out of thin air. But our first story comes to us straight from a Hollywood film set. Now, low-light night vision goggles and thermography imaging devices have always come with some bulky headwear and or carry packs. That is so first quarter of the 21st century. Seeing in the dark is now as easy and convenient as a simple pair of contact lenses. Matt, even Tony Stark will be impressed by these modern marvels.
I was actually thinking of Buffalo Bill. When I think of night vision goggles, the first image that comes to mind is Silence of the Lambs, Clarice Starling.
That freaky.
That's right. Going around
okay.
Buffalo Bill, the serial killer. And so she's in a dark room in a basement somewhere. And you go, of all the basements that I want to be in when it's dark, Buffalo Bill is not the choice of the person I want to have with me. And of course, Buffalo Bill's got the night vision goggles walking around and can see what's going on. So that's what I think of when I think of night vision goggles. Maybe I should think of something different.
But no, it speaks volumes, man.
That's right.
Right.
But we have talked before about getting low-powered night vision goggles. There's better night vision goggles, but this now is next level. This is
a pair of contact
lenses. Not a big power supply you got to plug in. You don't need to power
This is
them.
movie stuff. This is like, they put in contact lenses as if you could do that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, a bit different night vision goggles that we talk about from Buffalo Bill type night vision goggles take whatever available light is in the room and it amplifies it dramatically. So you don't need much light to be able to see with night vision with those sort of ones that look like toilet rolls that you have on your eyes. This is a bit different. This is looking at infrared. And it's what the contact lenses are doing very cleverly is it's turning infrared, which we can't see, our pathetic little eyes can't see infrared light, but it turns that into visible light. And it does that by having a bunch of elements in there and compounds in nanoparticles in the actual contact lenses. You've got things like gold and erbium and sodium gadolinium and all sorts of different compounds they've created to convert that infrared light into visible light, which is just incredible. Here's the really tricky part about this. Because we're not relying on visible light, you can see just as well if you close your eyes with the contact lenses.
Stop.
So you can stand there with your eyes closed and you can see the same as your eyes open at night time with infrared. Now,
So if you need to go to sleep, take the contact lenses in.
probably a good idea. The conversion is such, though, that you need a bit of infrared light being injected into the scene. And the easiest thing I think of there is CCTV cameras. Lots of those people have around houses and businesses.
Yeah.
And you'll typically see at night time just a faint of a red glow on them. And then when you look at the vision that you get from CCTV cameras now, it's very good, very impressive at night time, in mono, of course, but that camera is putting out infrared light, which is then bouncing back. The camera's detecting that, and then it's converting that into something that we can see. And so you get really clear vision at night time with those infrared cameras or with those CCTV cameras. It's a bit the same with this. It's relying on some source of infrared to be able to see at night. You are getting the ability to see something just from the warmth of a body. So, for example, if there was a person in front of you, you wouldn't be able to make out it was James, but I'd be able to make out it's a lump that's putting out some sort of radiation.
This is predator vision, isn't it?
That's right. You could see around a room and go, there's an animal there, there's a person there.
Yeah, wow.
That's about it. But if there was infrared injected into that room, so if there was an infrared source like a CCTV camera, you'd get the reflection of that back, and yes, you could see with greater clarity then. Now, sometimes I see stuff like that and I go, yeah, I think, cool, when am I going to use this? How often do I need to see at night time, walking around the house, tripping over Lego on the ground on my way to the toilet? I don't know that I need this. I'd probably just turn the light on.
Into this Buffalo Bill memory?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, they do talk about using it for things that are like covert operations or for warfare and things like that. I always try and think of a better use rather than warfare. I'd rather not.
But people design the technology and then people come up with uses for it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So at the moment, it's still a bit blurry. At the moment, the definition's not absolutely perfect, not as good as your CCTV cameras at night time, but just the fact that you could put contact lenses in converting infrared to visible light, I find that fascinating.
It's a lollybag of elements from the periodic table.
Correct.
And a bit of wizardry.
And excuse the pun, but keep an eye out for developments in this one.
Oh, thank you. Now, last month, an almost certain drowning tragedy was averted at a Florida beach when a quick-thinking drone operator used his initiative and his expensive toy to save the day. Not all heroes wear capes, Matthew, assuming that this guy wasn't wearing a cape that day he went to the beach.
I don't think he was. I haven't got any reports about him wearing a cape, but using personal drones for a whole bunch of stuff. Now, normally when someone takes a drone to the beach...
Suspicious. Highly suspicious.
That's right.
Come on, mate.
I think maybe they're going out there using the camera on there for things they shouldn't be. But anyway, this guy is a keen shark fisherman, so presumably he took his drone to the beach to go out and look for sharks.
Sharks. And there's the fingers doing the speech marks right there.
That's right.
I'm looking for sharks.
That's right. That's exactly what I'm doing. I don't know what you do as a shark fisherman if you're on the beach looking for sharks and you find some.
Yeah.
How do you throw a line from the beach to reel in that shark? So I'm a bit suspicious, as you are, about the shark fisherman part. But there was a girl that was in trouble. She'd been taken out by a rip. Rips in the US cause about 76 deaths per year.
76?
That's a lot. So even in Australia, they'd say, Surf Life Saving says that they do about 20,000 rescues a year, the majority of which are caused by rips. Now, I don't have the exact number on the majority, but a lot of those are caused by rips, which makes sense. So there's a girl out there in trouble. Her friend said, help, who can swim? Who can get out and save my friend? This guy said, well, I can't really swim well enough to go and save her, but I've got a drone. And this is the other thing that I'm intrigued by. I just happen to have a flotation device that I can attach to my drone. Why do you have a flotation device as a shark fisherman? Are you trying to help the sharks?
He's been going from beach to beach, just trying to look for people being caught out in rips.
Maybe.
That's why he was wearing a cape that day.
That's it. So he's taken his drone, he's flown the flotation device out, dropped it to the girl, she's hung onto that. The normal rescuers, the surf life-saving guys, got out there to rescue her and said, well, we think she was in trouble. We think this was all going to go downhill very quickly, but she had a flotation device to hang on to. Well done to the guy with the drone. Thank you very much. You've saved the day. Now we'll all ignore you while you go and take your camera and use it for whatever you're going to use it for on the beach in the first place. But we are seeing more and more drones, not just custom-made drones, but more and more consumer drones used for a range of surf life-saving activities, for rescues, for just keeping an eye on things. So at the moment, we've got various surf life-saving clubs that are using drones for early detection of swimmers in distress. So some of the people, the surf lifesavers on the beach, rather than just keeping an eye out there, watching there, sitting there in their chair between the flags, watching out, they're sending drones out and just keeping an eye on things. They're also able to detect some of the rips in the water as well because they're seeing some of that motion. So they're a bit more aware of some of those issues might be. And they might move the flags down somewhere else where the rip isn't as bad, for example. But you've got Queensland have been doing drone patrols over the last few years with drones. And even you're getting to the point now where it's not just commercial drones that have got payload capabilities, you're getting consumer drones that have got the ability to carry something, not something that heavy, but you carry something and then release that as well. So more and more
this is
opportunities.
Yeah. It's what a fantastic thing that this guy was able to save this girl. I wonder if we'll see that happening now as a standard across beaches all around Australia.
Well, it certainly makes sense, and what a great way to get something out to someone just while the rescuers are getting out.
To swim out there or to take your board out there takes a little bit of time, but a drone just shoots straight out there.
Exactly right over. You don't have to worry about the waves. I think you're out straight there. But I just think that the real point here is that the drones are getting so much better. What's on the drones, the features on the drones, all that is just getting quite incredible.
3D entertainment has come a long way in 40 years. Flimsy and uncomfortable cardboard specs with red and blue cellophane lenses. They gave us our first taste back in the early 80s. But the images were exclusively black and white, if you remember those, people old enough. Since then, polarised lenses have been working their magic to provide the 3D effect, or clunky headsets with slightly skewed images. But hold the phone, folks. For your viewing pleasure, 3D screens are finally here and won't require any unfashionable eyewear. Matt.
Unfashionable? What an
you love
insult. Those 3D glasses were fantastic. In fact, I was doing a bit of clean up in my office
One
the other
size
day.
fits all. And
That's right. But I found some 3D glasses that I had with a TV that we bought years ago.
I'm going to wear these out.
I didn't go that
See
far.
what people impress.
I didn't think of that. But the funny part was that the TV that we had that was the 3D TV is long gone.
Right.
We replaced it many versions ago. But the glasses, again, I wasn't using them, but they were tucked away there. And I went, I remember those glasses. But they were never that good. And if you sat down to watch a movie of the very limited movies that were 3D, you kind of had to just maybe squint or move around or get to the right spot and then really concentrate hard to get to the stage where you're viewing 3D. In cinemas, they're a bit better. When you go to cinemas, the cinemas were designed for, they were a bit better. But in the home versions, they never really seemed to work that well. And they didn't take off, maybe because of the fashion statement, or everyone that was sitting in the room had to have the 3D glasses on. So
it's limited, right?
It was very limited. Where they're going now is it's still got some limitations, but getting to the point where they're doing 3D without the glasses. And a lot of this has been made available by eye tracking and then AI. So you're sitting down in front of your monitor. The AI or the cameras in the monitor will see where your eyes are looking and where you are physically situated, and then it can actually modify the picture to give you that 3D for you. Even where your eyes look is important in this whole process. Now, the limitation there is it's really designed for mono viewing, for you as an individual. Sitting around, hey, let's sit the family around and watch a movie. Well, it's not going to be tracking everyone's eyes.
If you're trying to show someone something on your screen.
That's right. Look at this cool 3D. Can't you see it? Can't you see it there?
Yeah.
No, it can't because it's focused on where your eyes are and what you're doing. But the concept here is really about let's give someone a VR headset experience without the clunky and maybe a bit uncomfortable VR headset. So gamers say they want immersion. 62% of hardcore gamers say they want more immersion in the games. So one way is with a VR headset, but the other way is with 3D. And so you're getting now some monitors. You're also getting some gaming devices. So there's a company called Leia, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Leia. And they've had some devices they've been using where they're incorporating this into it. They did try a smartphone. They had a red hydrogen one smartphone that came out a few years ago. Complete flop. Didn't work at all. They've now gone to the stage where they're saying let's partner with some big companies. So Samsung have got an Odyssey 3D gaming monitor that uses the same technology for about $3,000 for a gaming monitor.
Wow.
But if you're a hardcore gamer, you'd probably pay that. You're probably paying almost that for a VR headset, and that seems to be giving the experience that it's working better. So you're going to get at the stage where you're going to have more devices. So, for example, Nintendo 3DS, they tried to do some 3D on the actual gaming console itself. Didn't work great, but you'll get more and more of those gaming consoles and more of the monitors that'll start to have 3D without the glasses. I mean, ultimately what we need is our eyes further apart. I think that'll give us a better 3D vision. So maybe over a few hundred generations we can slowly develop.
To breed the humans with
wide eyes.
But I'm just thinking, these gamers that are complaining about the immersive experience, they just need to maybe pull out the old Atari or the the Sega Master System from way back and get back into that just to appreciate what they've got now. Come on, guys.
The old pixelated Wolfenstein 3D, one of the first games that you were first-person shooter game. Yeah. They were pretty pixelated. So
they were pretty, but it was fun.
It was fun, that's right. But compare that to the cinema quality you've got now in a gaming environment. So get a grip is what you're saying?
Now, they've been tested out on the marathon track, but now robots have been nudged into the boxing ring to slug it out for 12 rounds. The gentleman's sport has taken a mechanical turn. Matt, dance like a butterfly and sting like a bee. I think I've seen this one in a Hugh Jackman film, though. Yeah?
Well, true, but I'm not a fan of boxing, so I love this story because I don't understand.
Pugilism, I think we like to call it.
Well, in so many sports now, whether it be AFL or NRL or even in American gridiron, there is so much work around protect the head of the player, and sometimes concussion might be a poor outcome as a result of playing the game and showing their incredible talents off on the field. We're getting much better at that now. But
and now the protection for the player that's been hit in the head is they lose the option to choose to play on, and the doctor just says, sorry,
that's right,
you're gone for 2 weeks.
Compulsory, that's right, compulsory time out of the game. And so with sports like that, contact sports like that, where you sometimes have some form of concussion as a result of them playing, seems to be a bit counterintuitive when you've got boxing where the objective, is concussion.
Take as much concussion as you can possibly stand in the 12 rounds.
That's right, and dish it out. So you'll see someone's boxing record and it's, I've won 28 fights and 8 by knockout. Wow, well done. You managed to beat the other person's brain so much that they passed out. Yeah. Fantastic.
And the later repercussions that happen 10, 20, 30 years later.
Yep.
Yeah.
20% of pro boxers have CTE apparently. Yeah. Yeah, wow. So anyway, having robots fight seems to me like a much more fun thing to do. And it reminds me of the old battle bots. Remember the battle bots there?
Yeah,
and you had crazy flamethrowers or circular saws that would come out, or hammers. I remember seeing a hammer. And I think the hammer went at such speed that it almost lifted the whole little bot off the ground. So they were quite humorous. Now, this, of course, for me, as you know, my objective in life is to have a robot helping me around the house. This gets me a bit closer. I don't really want a robot around the house to punch me up, but I reckon if we've got robots that can punch each other up, they're getting better at their skills, at their gross motor skills, and surely they can pick up clothes.
Pick up clothes. We're back to that old chestnut again.
That's
Yeah,
right,
just
that's
pick
what I
up my
want.
damn clothes after your boxing match.
So they had 4 boxes. I'm not sure if I call them boxes. 4 robot boxes, I suppose we'll call them boxes. And they were controlled by humans. So they did have remote controls, but they also had some autonomous processes in place. So the humans were controlling them, moving them around, doing certain things, but then they had some pretty cool moves, pre-programmed movements that they would do, like a side kick or a spin and kick or a sparring technique. And so essentially they went through and had 4 of them had a contest and had basically rounds, and then finally got to the stage where AI strategist was the winner. So that was the final winner of all of them. And I assume the winner was the one that was left standing. Maybe they judged like a normal boxing match where they said you got so many hits to the head, or you won the round by a certain number of points.
We can go back to like gladiatorial times where you just dismember this thing.
Well, that was a battle box, wasn't it? Basically, you had to dismember or disable the other robot. So essentially, what's happening here is this company called Unitree in China is really showing off what they can do with their robots. I don't think they're saying let's have robots beating each other up across the world, but they're showing if we've got the talent to be able to create a robot that can do this, wow, our robots are getting better. Interestingly enough, companies like Boston Robotics or Boston Dynamics, who have got robots, Spot the Robot Dog, for example, have said, we don't want to participate in that. We don't think it's a good use of robots. We'll show off our robot skills in other ways. So it's a bit of a flex from Unitree in China and other companies
I
as
still
well.
reckon they're going to say, all right, sooner or later, the pressure's going to be on them to show off what they can do.
Probably.
They're going to have a boxing robot before you know it.
Now, the exciting part about this is that Unitree has got the G1 robot for sale. 1.3 metres tall, 2 hours it'll last on the battery, $23,000, you can buy one of these robots. Again, I'm not saying buy one to beat up your neighbour. I'm just saying you can buy one, have it in your house.
Although you can beat up your neighbour if you buy one.
That's right. If you've got a short neighbour, I don't know how a normal sized person would go against a 1.3 metre robot. I'm not sure I'd like where they're punching, the direct spot they'd be punching at. But these robots are for sale now. You can actually have one help you around the house and do things for you. Still not sure how they go picking up my dirty clothes, but they're getting to the point where you can buy them. So 23 grand, it's getting there. We've talked about other robots, 100 grand, 23 grand's getting cheaper.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's in people's range.
Yeah, exactly right. So we're getting there slowly.
Wireless charging was certainly something of a revolution when it hit the market just over a decade ago. But technologies used to keep the beepers beeping have got some major limitations, particularly for devices implanted below the skin, for example. Now, Matt, this is the problem with the electromagnetic induction and radio waves, but for harmless new ultrasound charging, it's an area of worry.
It's an area of worry, that's right. We know electromagnetic waves are absorbed very efficiently by water, by liquid.
Yeah.
So we don't need much water for them to go, that's it, I've had enough. That's a bit of a problem with the human body because we're, about 70% water? So if we want to charge through our body somewhere, it's going to encounter a fair bit of water and it's not going to work that well. And why do we want charging? Well, apart from our Tony Stark suit that we want to charge up at some stage, people have got some devices inside them sometimes that need charging, like pacemakers, other sensors, might be diabetic sensors. So we know we've got things in our body sometimes that people need to charge up. So ultrasonic charging is different and certainly better. And we know from simple things like an ultrasound, when you have something using ultrasonic waves, it is bouncing into the body or being, getting through the body much deeper to look at parts of the body when you're doing that from a medical process. But those ultrasonic waves can also be used to charge. They've got energy in them, so they can be used to charge or power something.
And it's vibrations that are just super fast.
Yeah, and so those vibrations, that's energy. They can be used to vibrate something that then receives that. So forget about electromagnetic induction in the human body. Doesn't work great. What they're doing with this is they've got receivers that are biocompatible, so they can go in the body. They're stretchable, movable, And it doesn't have to be as accurate. You know what it's like when you sit your phone down on your wireless charger and you miss by just this much.
Yeah,
and
but you don't realise for a couple of hours and then you're
right.
still on 16%.
That's right. Or overnight, you wake up in the morning and go, oh, I'm going to get a full day and I've got no charge. So one of the great things about ultrasonic charging is that it doesn't need to be as accurate because, as you said, you've got lots of vibrations. They're happening, high-intensity vibrations. As long as it's within the realm of there somewhere, it'll pick up some of those vibrations. Sure, the closer you have to direct vibration, the more power you're going to get, but you only need to be somewhere nearby. At this stage, they've done testing where they've said they've gotten 20 milliwatts of power through 3 centimetres of water, which I know 20 milliwatts doesn't sound like much, but when you think about charging up something like a pacemaker, you don't need a whole bunch of power. No. So it would be quite possible to have something where you just put it on your chest, strap it on your chest, maybe plug it in perhaps onto your chest, and then it'll get to your pacemaker in your heart or next to your heart through that skin that you've got there, 3 centimetres, probably don't have that much skin there, but again, being able to get 20 milliwatts of power through that is pretty impressive. So
keep your ticker ticking.
It would keep your ticker ticking and other parts of your body going if you need that as well. So this, to me, is a great way to address the limitation of wireless charging because we know that you can get infections when you start running things in your body and then run leads out to plug in, then you can get infections through those, whereas keeping it all contained within your body, that to me sounds like a much smarter way to do it. And then ultrasonic charging is a way to do it. I don't know, we'll see it with mobile phones in the near future. If you can stick it right on top of it and you can line it up like a MagSafe charger would do, that probably makes more sense. But ultrasonic charging, I think, has got an absolute use. Then if we get even better at it, why can't we start doing things like underwater sensors, underwater marine sensors, and start charging them via ultrasonic? I don't know what depth you might get to before it becomes too far, but I think there's certainly applications in underwater.
Well, dolphins and whales, they communicate with each other from a long way away.
Yeah. Just how much power you get that distance away, but absolutely there'd be applications for it.
Since its birth in the 1970s, the Rubik's Cube has been a source of challenge in so many ways, least of all how to solve it. It wasn't too long after it hit the shelves that the World Championships were being held and people were solving it blindfolded, behind their backs, with their feet, underwater, while being chased by crocodiles. Tiny Rubik's Cubes, enormous Rubik's Cubes, Rubik's Pyramids, spheres and barrels. But the biggest challenge has always been about speed. And Matt, I think the final word on the fastest solve of the Rubik's Cube may have been just laid on the table.
Yeah, it's hard to say in this day and age that it's the best ever, the absolute's the fastest, but 0.103 seconds is the new record. Not by a human, of course.
No.
By a machine.
Well, it'd have to be just one turn. But even then.
I'm not sure I could do one turn in 0.103 seconds. To give you an idea, we blink in about that sort of time frame. Yeah. One blink takes us about 0.1 or 0.2 of a second.
This is ridiculous.
This is ridiculous. Now,
but what is even more ridiculous is people going, we've got to solve it faster than what it's ever been solved before. And we need to set a record that cannot be beaten.
Well, Mitsubishi had a TokuFast bot which could solve it in 0.305 seconds.
So Mitsubishi, you would have said that that's the fastest you will ever see.
It's not too bad, is it? So, and Mitsubishi had all their resources behind them, had obviously the ability to throw a few dollars at it, and they came up with that to say, look,
money well spent, you'd say.
That's right. Shareholders of Mitsubishi, thank goodness we've got the fastest Rubik's Cube solving machine, but not now, because this was done by some students. So you got some students at Purdue University who said, you know what, we reckon Mitsubishi did okay, but we've got some other ideas to do it faster and just using consumer products rather than all the factory components that Mitsubishi could presumably manufacture. So they put together something. There were 4 students. I'll name them because I'm pretty impressed. Matthew Patrahay, Junpu Otter, Aidan Hurd and Alex Berta. So they said, let's put together our heads and let's come up with this over a single semester. This is our project. So they did that. The first problem they found was when they started trying to spin the cube at that speed, it just fell apart. And I've had the same thing happen to me. When you try and do it really fast, sometimes you'll get 2 that are just out of alignment and you'll just clip it and then pop, out it goes. Yeah. So they found the only way they were going to beat the record was they had to have a reinforced Rubik's Cube. So I'm not sure
they had to build their own.
Had to build their own reinforced Rubik's Cube to then be able to solve it quicker.
Oh, this is amazing.
Now, I'm not sure if that's cheating, is it? You should be able to take a standard off-the-shelf
cheating.
Rubik's Cube.
Strip them of their world title.
That's right. So they put together a custom-built core to strengthen the assembly. They then put it together in a machine, again using consumer components in the machine, built an algorithm that could look at that and any set it was to start with. So it's not like it says, here's how it starts every single time. So it's got to be able to view it just like a human.
Yeah.
And so I've got to be able to solve it from there.
Oh, wow.
And then built the algorithm to do that and then said, go for it. And then got that down to 0.103. Now, the first thing I thought of was, who's doing the stopwatch? Right, I'm ready to go. Go stop. Oh, gee, I only got that. I reckon I would struggle to do 0.103 stop and start in a stopwatch. That's pretty quick to actually just stop and start a stopwatch. So they had to have some sort of electronic timing. And then I thought, well, you get some high-speed cameras, and so you'd put a high-speed camera on it. But some of those high-speed cameras, they might do, say, 1,000 frames per second. 1,000 frames per second, you're not really seeing all the moves of that. So
it's still a blur.
It's still a blur. So basically, 10,000 frames per second camera they used to capture what the actual cube did.
Unbelievable.
So quite incredible. And I do like the fact that you've just got some students using consumer components to say, we're going to take on the big boys, David and Goliath story, and we're going to beat the big boys. So at 0.103, I think you're starting to get into some limitations of the cube strength. Again, they had to strengthen this one. And then just the speed of any machine to be able to spin at those speeds when you've got to change direct. You're probably getting to the limitation of physics
certainly
in terms
are.
of stopping
If you go
and
any
starting.
faster than this, you're actually going to be completing the puzzle before you've created the mess up, right? So,
Sounds like a Monty Python skit. Got up before we went to bed.
and it's certainly faster than trying to swap the stickers around. So,
Apparently, yeah. Maybe that's the next one they could do, the fastest sticker
how
software.
fast can you swap the stickers around?
Actually, I had one recently where it was staying at a Airbnb, we were at an event, and there was a Rubik's Cube sitting on the table, and of course you can't help yourself. You're sitting around with the kids, and you flex and show off to them and solve it. And I got to solving it, and I couldn't solve it. And I've gone, I know, someone's popped the cubes out here, and because you can do it where you can't solve it, where it's impossible to solve. Because I kept getting to certain points of going, that's not right. What am I forgetting here? And then I went, I know what's happened here. So I did have to pop the cube apart, put it together properly, mix it up, and then solve it and go, there, right, we can sit it back down now, completely solved. But
And please don't pop any more
don't
cubes.
pop it. Don't pop it and make it unsolvable.
One of the biggest perils for the near future for this planet is going to be in accessing clean, fresh, potable water. But Australian and Chinese scientists may have a neat answer by drawing moisture straight from the air with solar-powered sponges, folks. Matt, how is this water harvesting from thin air going to even work?
Well, it works incredibly. I just find this fascinating. So it's
Solar-powered sponges?
Yeah, it's a combination of balsa wood and some other components they've put in a sponge. So balsa wood's obviously very common. A hardwood, most people don't realise it's a hardwood, but very common in terms of the ability to get that. And then they've used a solar panel on top of this, and then essentially you're taking water. It's magic. You're taking water out of the air. As long as there's at least 30% humidity, and you think about most environments, maybe about not out in the middle of the Sahara, you mightn't have 30% humidity, but most of the time you've got at least 30% humidity.
But how many times in droughts have farmers looked at the clouds and we've got about the 30% humidity, but it just blows over?
Yeah,
just
exactly
heartbreaking.
right.
So
now you're not getting a lot. So basically you've
we're
got...
not at that stage.
You're not at the stage where you're making it rain, but per gram of this material, you can get about 2 millilitres of water per day.
Yeah,
so you're saying that's not great, and that's at higher humidity
That's
levels.
a start.
It's a start, but that's per gram. So 2 millilitres, not much, but that's per gram. So, well, I don't want 1 gram. I want 1,000 grams. I want 10,000 grams. So basically you can scale it up, and that's exactly what they've been doing in their testing is they've got a way of measuring how much you can get out of it, 2 millilitres per gram, but let's build more and more of these. It relies on surface area, it relies on the sun, and essentially it's extracting water from thin air so that then you can build that up, have it filter down into some sort of way of basically capturing all that, and next thing you know, you've got water. Now, you're going to use this, in my opinion, mainly I would see emergencies, disasters, but off-grid communities, areas where they don't have a lot of water and don't have potable water. You might have some outback communities, for example, where you don't have a good access to running water or some sort of river.
We hear stories of these kids in third world countries having to go and get buckets from the
well,
from the pump or the well, and walking several kilometres to go each way.
So there'd be nothing stopping you setting up an array.
Yeah.
Essentially, you look at it just like a solar farm where you've got a large array of solar panels. Well, have a large array of these and you go, well, there's our water harvesting. As long as there's a bit of sun each day, and even if there's no sun that day, we'll have enough water to get us by for the day, and tomorrow there'll be sun again. So it basically uses that power to create water. It's basically built into a little dome. It's got a dome lid in there. And again, it will drip that out very slowly, but you'll just have that into some sort of maybe irrigation type system, some sort of pipe system that will then filter that water down or drain that water down into some sort of receptacle, and voila, you've got water.
Wow.
The great part about it, and when I read some more information about it, the great part about it is because you are using cheap components, so balsa wood, very cheap, very common, you can build these at scale for communities that might need them. So I can imagine you build a device in a disaster, quick, ship that device in, and then roll out more and more of that, have it on a trailer, bring in 50 trailers, whatever it might be, and suddenly you've got water. Because in a disaster, in an emergency, getting fresh water to people is probably a huge problem, because food and water, you can survive without your house for a little while, but maybe food and water, I need them just about every day.
What an amazing innovation.
Yeah, it is. So there'll be prototypes that are being built now. There's still a prototype phase to go through. They are talking already about building in some IoT sensors just to get maximum production and to actually gauge what sort of production. I can see in a year's time, maybe 2 years' time, you'll have some sort of commercial version of this.
Amazing. Well, here's a story that's not going to please the coding geeks. All that hard work you've put into the learning Python and JavaScript and SQL and all their friends, learning tricks to make computer software dance to your chosen tune, well, you might as well have been outside getting some sunshine and playing frisbee, folks, because, Matt, people can create their own custom-made apps now from scratch thanks to the brilliance of AI.
And it's all called vibe coding. I love the term.
Vibe coding.
I've just got a vibe. I've just got a feeling for a certain program, and I don't know how to code it. So
if you're driving along in a car, you go, oh, I need an app for da-da-da.
Yep.
I wonder if there is one. You go looking for one, there's none. You go, right, well, I need to make one.
Away you go. You vibe code it. So I'll get more of that. But the example I thought of was in the movie called The Internship. Very funny movie. Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson, made back about 12 years ago. And there's a scene in that where they're all being interns, or they want to be interns at Google, and they've got to come up with some sort of app. They've got to come up with some creation. And they're out late at night having way too much to drink. I don't condone too much drinking, of course, but they're having way too much to drink.
Sometimes it just brings about innovation.
Right, it is. And one of them sends off a text to a girl that he likes, and it's an inappropriate text. And the next morning they're going, oh no, I said that text. What a stupid thing I did. And they're all sitting around going, that's the app. We need an app where you do a drunk test before you send an app. Before you send a text.
Before you send a text.
So it's just a little quiz, just something that might be a little maths problem, something where you've just got to be able to put together a couple of logical thoughts to be able to get past that. If you can't get past it, then you're not in any state to be able to send off a text message. So a great idea. And of course, these people are coders, so they go and code the app and away they go. But you have a brilliant idea like that, well, where do I go? I love that idea. Where do I go to actually create that app? Having said that, there is no app that exists like that. So maybe you want an app like that. If you're someone that sends drunk texts.
Still Hollywood fantasy.
That's right. Still fantasy at the moment. So at the moment, if you come up with something that says, I've got a simple idea. I drink too much coffee. I want to track how many cups of coffee I've had. Or I want to keep reminding the kids they've got to do these jobs around the house, and I want something to pop up on their phone to keep reminding them, have you done the dishwasher yet? If you want some random little app,
Did I read that someone made an app so their baby could message them or contact them by phone?
Correct. Just a very young person that can't type in phone numbers, or there's pictures on the actual screen. So there's mum, there's dad, there's granddad, there's grandmum, just 4 pictures, and all the kid's got to do is hit one of those pictures and it makes a phone call. And they're hard-coded in. You can't go and add other pictures in there. You're hard-coded on the app. So it's that type of thing. Now, you've got some tools out there. Replit, R-E-P-L-I-T, is probably the best known. Claude, C-L-A-U-D-E, Cursor, and of course ChatGPT. you can go and use some of those, and you can say in plain text, I want an app to do blah, whatever it might be, and away it goes. Now, you've still got to have some basic skills, I suppose, but if you can use the internet, you can probably do it. You don't need coding. You don't need to know coding languages. And if something doesn't work right, you don't need to go line by line through that code and say, I know there's a problem here, it's just not doing something right. You just go back and feed that into the tool you use and say, I'm getting an error like this. Oh, okay, I'll rewrite this section for you then.
So we've got a whole lot of software engineers right now brandishing their fists and saying, oh, you're doing me out of a job.
Microsoft says that AI is writing 30% of its code already.
Oh,
so those people have probably been waving their fists for some time.
Yeah, that's right.
In the unemployment queues.
Yeah.
Because it's right now.
From the taxi they're driving.
From the taxi they're driving, that's right. So it is a problem, without a doubt. You've got people out there, my son's one of them, has got a computer science degree. So you've got people out there that go, this is what I'm doing. But there's still skills that are needed, and there's still other areas that you can use those.
Okay.
It may not be in hardcore coding. It might be in other areas, because you still might need people to logically put things together, to come up with the ideas, to create the concepts, to fine-tune those concepts, but you might just not need to write the lines of code as you did before. So vibe coding, go and check it out. I love the idea of it. I love the idea that anyone can be a programmer. I love the idea that it's just about now the idea. So often it's about the idea. The implementation of it, yeah, it's easy. We'll just go and get one of these little tools to go and do it for us. But the idea is the important part. So have a crack at vibe coding. I'm keen to hear about anyone out there who's had a crack.
And you'd be forgiven for thinking that anything you can do, AI can do better. It certainly feels like that. That's the way it is with stories like the one we just had before. But one thing that AI is still pretty terrible at least, is reading people's emotions. Matt, is empathy the last bastion for humanity before AI finally plunges us into a Matrix-style universe?
I keep saying that we are cleverer than we give ourselves credit for.
Well, I think we are. We're a very clever species.
We are, and we've also had a bit of training. So at my tender age, I've had over 50 years of training on looking at what people do and how they interact with each other and picking up some clues.
Very subtle clues. Like the one I'm giving you right now?
The one that says, it's time to go. I'm not brilliant at it. My wife is much better at picking up clues on people, because I'll have a chat with someone like, oh, gee, that guy said, did you pick up that he wasn't very happy about this certain thing?
What is it about wives that do that?
That's right. They're more in touch maybe. So we pick up clues. We pick up visual clues. We can work out when people are just having a conversation without hearing anything, whether that seems to be a good or a bad conversation. But when they showed AI a whole range of interactions, they found that AI was getting it wrong or different. And so you'd show the same interaction to a number of different AI tools, and what they said was happening was completely different. They showed those same interactions to humans, and the majority of humans picked what was happening, and they were consistent in doing that. Yeah. So even as individuals, we're still pretty good at getting it right or getting it consistent over and over again, whereas AI not. Now, that's today, and I suspect it's only a matter of time, as you kind of alluded to, because what AI is really good at is getting lots of information, compiling, analysing, and making conclusions from that. So give it more data, give it lots of data sets, feed into it, these two people talking in this way is an angry conversation, here's a good conversation, here's a friendly conversation. All of those things it will learn over time, and then suddenly AI goes, I know exactly what's going on. I don't need to hear a word of what's being said. I can tell you that those two are not going to go home happy tonight. They're going to be in an argument or whatever it might be.
And you'll sit down at your laptop and your computer will chime up and say, having a bad day today.
Yeah, that's right. And maybe it's not a bad thing. Maybe sitting at your laptop and going, having a bad day, why don't you take a break? Good idea. I'll just go and take a break for 10 minutes and come back because I'm not feeling great or feeling fantastic. Let's get into some vibe coding. What are my ideas now? What can I come up with?
Do you really want to punch out that email and send it off to that person?
That's right. So I think it's fascinating though, but again, we talk about driving cars, we talk about picking up clues from people. We do lots of really clever things, and AI is really just trying to learn from us at this stage. But again, the one disadvantage we've got is memory. That's the one where AI kills us because it's got access to, well, everything.
Yeah, its ability to learn.
Ability to learn is getting there. Ability to remember and recall is unbelievable. So we've got a little way to go, but we have got some advantages left still. Maybe.
Yeah, I can do tricks with my fingers, like, the whole dissecting
Remove
your
your
thumb.
finger?
Yeah, I can't do that yet.
No, you're right.
And that's all we have for you today, folks. The men with the dark glasses and black suits have arrived at the door, and that means we're obliged to wind up and go willingly right now. Thanks for another cracking Tech Talk, Matt.
Willingly we've got to go. That seems like it's way too compliant.
Well, they look really mean.
So I need to go into some vibe coding. How do I stop the men knocking at my door? Write me an app for that.
Well, I'm going to go and catch myself a ringside seat for some robot brawling and see if there's a bookie running a book there. See, I can't win a couple of cents on that. Now, thank you for tuning in to Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. It's the all-over protection you need to make the next 10 years a smoother ride as a maglev train. I'm your host, James Eddy, with his husky voice, hopefully leaving him for next week, and I'll be fine for the next week. Wishing you a satisfying and productive week all the same. Until we meet again for another episode in a week's time, take care, and we'll see you then.